We're all mad here, right? Hey everybody, Elsie Rosie here, and welcome back to the O Ship Show. On today's episode, we are going through one of my childhood favorite books and a book that I actually took a class on here at my school, Alice in Wonderland. We're going through the first book. We will go through the second one later this year, but for now, we're just going to be focusing on the first book. So, welcome to this Books of Tea. For today, we're going to dive into the rabbit hole. So, let's get started. So guys, some fun facts about Alice in Wonderland. It was written by Lewis Carroll in 1865. Wild. I get the dates mixed up because in 1865, Lewis Carroll reportedly wrote in his diary that he met Alice Little for the first time. Now, who is Alice Little? Alice Little is the original girl who inspired Alice in Wonderland, at least according to legend. Her and Carol were friends because Carol used to take pictures of Alice and two of her other sisters with their father's permission. At the time, this was viewed as normal, but it is something that we should still be like, a little questioning of. But at the time, Carol worked as a math tutor at the local college, and his hobby was photography, and he'd done this with many children. He was much more comfortable and open with children because he was very socially awkward with adults. So it is definitely something to be concernedly little wonder about. It is implied in legend that Alice actually was the one who gave Carol this great inspiration to create Alice in Wonderland. According to legend, I love saying that because I think it's a fun phrase. According to legend, Carol actually told the story, at least a bit of a version of the original Alice in Wonderland, to Alice and her sisters. He told them to him in a tea party under a tree. Alice loved the story so much that she was like, you have to write me a story. You have to write it down. I want to be able to read it again and again and again. So, because of that, Carol gave in, and he actually gave her the original copy of Alice in Wonderland because he knew how much she loved it. In total, I think he actually wrote about 4 different versions of Alice in Wonderland. There's 4 different versions of the story. There's Alice Adventures in Wonderland, Looking Through a Looking Glass are the 2 big ones. And then there's 2 other that I'm blanking on right now. But we'll go through these 2 main ones and a little bonus extra one that we'll dive into more in a minute. All right, Chris, I want to introduce to you. All right, guys, here's Chris, and let's see what he'll talk about. Y'all, Elsie keeps taking my tea, and that's just rude. You don't mess with a man's teeth. And hello everyone, my name is Chris, and I'm here to talk to you all about the wonderful work from Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland. Also, I'm also here to stop Elsie before she dives into those wild theories because she says she's not comfy around them. But I know she has opinions about them, so most likely she'll talk all about them at some point. Because of that big, wild debate between the relationship between the original Alice Little and Lewis Carroll. Elsie, we are not talking about that in today's episode. That will be in a future episode. Sir, just for the record, I was not about to go into those theories because I don't know how I feel about them. Because sometimes the theories about Lewis Carroll is... If y'all want to look into that, do it. I'm not a big supporter of it. If it's just, he's not the best guy. But yeah, Chris, keep going. Yeah, I don't believe that for a minute. Thank you for letting me keep it going, though. In the first Alice in Wonderland novel, it is very important to know that Alice is actually, let's dive just right into the story. Alice is a little girl who jumps into a rabbit hole and then ends up in this crazy world where literally nothing makes sense at all. She gets stretched and enlarged to the point where her tears create an ocean inside of the room that she's trapped in. She literally ends up going to a tea party with a Mad Hatter and a Mad Hare, a rabbit, who tell riddles and have literally no concept of time, which goes against everything that she's been taught in school, which she points out a lot because she's always taught to be on time and perfect for everything. And to top this all off, the way the story ends is she ends up going to court to find out who ate the queen's tarts. What? complete madness. It's an amazing story, but honestly, the key parts of it don't even make sense. And that's only the spark notes, essentially. Don't tell them I said that. Essentially, there's a ton more different stories and different elements of this book that I would say to check into, because honestly, even if I described it, I don't know if y'all would believe me. I would definitely say check out this book to see what it's like. Now, the big thing is, why is it like this? That's all up to you, because this book has been debated, picked over, and torn apart by people trying to figure out what it is. The biggest theory is that, at least the one that's most popular that I found doing some research for this, is that Alice in Wonderland is this little girl that's going through the start of puberty. And that's explained by her, like, learning the stretching thing. Like, because when you go through puberty, you learn how to grow in weird places. Also, everything becomes highly emotional and dramatic because your hormones and body is a lot of whack. I don't know how I feel about that, but the big thing is a lot of people, sometimes it's hard for them to read this book just as a book because it can be viewed as such an historical and academic research book. Yes, that is all true, well, at least in theory, but Alice in Wonderland can also be read just for fun because the characters are very vibrant. Alice is very vocal about how this whole world tour is very weird, and she talks all about it. She talks all the time. And it's very, like, a fun, simple story to get along with. In fact, my favorite character in almost all of literature is actually in this story, the Cheshire Cat. He's my favorite because he is the definition of my two favorite things. I love creepy and cute, and he is exactly that. I love him so much. He's my creepy boy, and I love him. And guys, in fact, Alice in Wonderland is such a wide story that from the original version of this one, which came out in the 1800s, actually has spawned many other things. It has spawned books around it, theories about like what H. Snillpit actually means. There are books that are like different versions of it. One that we'll actually look into in November that I'm gonna hide from you all. You all won't see it yet. There are also movies based around it. There are the ones by Disney, and there's actually not just the ones by Disney, there are over 20 movies all about Alice in Wonderland. Some of them are actually silent films going back to I think the first one was in 1904. But yeah, so definitely Alice in Wonderland is a very broad, wide reach. Now, to a little fun bonus content about Alice in Wonderland. There are also video games of Alice in Wonderland, such as the American McGee's Alice and its sequel, Alice Madness Returns. Definitely, I love these two games. I love how they incorporated a lot of different aspects of the books into the series. Someday I do want to go through both of the video games and record them for you all, and then do some theories and commentaries. And then I also want to talk about how, because I haven't played the game yet myself, I've watched people play it. And when I watched people play it, because I read the book, I've seen, like, there's a character in here who's basically a cannibal and a duchess, and she's a boss in both games. It's very interesting, it's very engaging. The second game also poses a bit of a theory about that situation I didn't want to talk about, and I will dive into all of that at some point. Hopefully, if we get all this YouTube stuff figured out, then someday we will go through the American McGee games and basically do a comparison of book to video game, because they include a lot of great things from the video game, which I really think is really cool. The people who made the video game, they loved it. The video games themselves are psychological horror puzzle games. So I would say they are for mature audiences, remember that, because there's a lot of gore, there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of adult themes. But the storyline itself is incredible. Alice is a really fun character to play as. She's strong, she's smart, she has some really good lines. Also, the way they designed Cheshire Cat is perfection. Oh my gosh. I love it. So yeah, this book has fans. People have loved and studied this book. Even in 2020, people love it. Here we are talking about it right now. This book is definitely something that is a lot of fun. I absolutely love it. Well, for you all know this, of course. Elsie and I are big horror fans, or at least she's obsessed with FNAF. I'm obsessed with actual horror, because FNAF is great, but I prefer like Stephen King's It or something like that. But for a little sneak peek of coming, someday very soon, as Elsie said, her birthday month, we are gonna go through a horror spooky version of Alice in Wonderland in November. So a little fun, special thing. Now, let's dive back into the show. Would we recommend it? Personally, Elsie and I disagree on this. I personally am not the biggest fan of the original one because it was so hard for me to look past all the historical context with it that it was kind of hard for me to actually just read it. Also, I'm not the biggest fan of all the adventures because Alice's commentary, she's definitely a kid. She's around 10 years old in this, and she has she doesn't stay very focused. So I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I'm like, I would say if you are going to read it with somebody who already has read it. That way it's easier for you to keep track of essentially what you're reading, because it's just really wild. Now, Elsie, what would you say? Alice in Wonderland is a novel that has created its own world with many different versions and millions of different theories. People have literally dissected so many pieces of this book, and there's so many little aspects of history that, like, if we wanted to, I could make, honestly, if someone wants to, actually, if someone did this, I would subscribe and watch every single episode. Somebody could dedicate a whole YouTube series to every little surprising detail in this book, especially one story that I wanted to tell you all about this page. So when Alice in Wonderland was originally printed, the way that it worked was that each page was on plates, and they would just put the words backwards on the plates and then print them onto paper. This was a pain in the butt because Carol was so specific about how he wanted exactly all of these words to go that they had to make a special plate just for this, and it caused such a little riot. People were so salty about it. It's very funny. Also, this book actually contains the first and second book. The first book itself is about 150 pages, 160 pages. It's not that long. This one contains both the Looking Glass and the first book. And this one you can actually buy on Amazon or get it at Target. It's very easy to get. I would recommend, as always, guys, please check out your local bookstore or your local library to check out this amazing book. It's so much fun. So would I recommend it? Yeah. I would say that if you're going to read it, do it slowly. The first time I read Alice in Wonderland, I read it very quickly in the sum of 2 weeks, which isn't good when reading this kind of story, because with this story, you have to take it nice and slow. Because when you take it slow, you see the little details. Like, you see Alice go from just like this little girl who's very confused and very lost and just wondering where her little cat Dinah is, to exploring and her being like, oh my god, this is wild. And in fact, I can't find, yeah, here it is. My favorite scene in the whole book is where she flat out yells. She yells at the Queen of Hearts, the character who I have been horrified of since I was a kid because of the movies and because of just giant lady with big head is scary. What? Alice yells at the army and says, "You're nothing but a deck of cards." And the reason why I say that is because this beautiful drawing of her came out where Carol actually drew all the images himself because he really wanted to encapsulate all this stuff. And when she says that, the entire world falls apart and she wakes up. She has the power to step out of this world. So, long story short, I definitely recommend this book. We were actually going to be going into it a lot more, and we were actually reading a version of it for my birthday month, which is in November, where we will dive into some more fun facts and cool things about it. But yeah, so I would definitely recommend this book. We'll see you all next time on Books with Tea on the Oh Ship Show. All links that I used to do some research are down in the description below. Bye!